This is the foolish man's favorite line 3 little words that sound confident but slowly rot the mind from the inside out. I already know that. He says it proudly, as if knowing were the same as living wisely. But the truth, he doesn't know. Not really. He remembers a fragment he once heard, something that made him feel clever for a moment, and now he clings to it like armor, because admitting ignorance feels like exposing a wound. He'd rather look smart than become smart, so he keeps defending what he knows, while the world continues evolving around him. The Stoics would look at this man and see not strength, but fear. Fear of becoming a student again. Epictetus said it clearly. You cannot learn what you think you already know. That truth should echo in the mind of every man who shuts the door on his own growth. The Stoics didn't worship knowledge. They trained it. To them, wisdom wasn't a trophy. It was a muscle. And muscles rot when you stop using them. A wise man never walks into a room thinking, I already know. He walks in asking, what am I missing here? He observes before he speaks. He listens before he argues. He studies not to prove others wrong, but to sharpen his own clarity. Because real intelligence isn't about having the right answers. It's about keeping the hunger for better questions. Modern men confuse information with understanding. We scroll through motivational quotes, books, podcasts, and call that wisdom. But reading about discipline isn't discipline. Talking about strength isn't strength. Knowledge without embodiment is just noise pretending to be truth. The Stoic warrior knows until you live the truth, it's still theory. So the next time you want to say, I already know that, stop. Ask instead, do I live this? Do you wake up early like Marcus Aurelius advised, or do you just quote him? Do you practice stillness when insulted, or do you simply nod at the idea? That is where the line is drawn, between men who know and men who grow. The fool uses knowledge as a shield. The Stoic sharpens it into a sword. The fool says, I know, to end the conversation. The Stoic says, tell me more, to expand it. And that's why one man stays small, defensive, easily offended, while the other becomes vast, unshakable, endlessly evolving. Strip away your arrogance. Empty your mind. Admit how little you truly know, because that moment of humility is the moment your mind becomes infinite again. In a world where everyone pretends to be an expert, the wisest man is the one who still calls himself a student. And that prideful illusion thinking you already know always leads to the same outcome. A smaller, weaker version of yourself. And nothing shrinks a man faster than the next phrase. It's not my fault. Every time he says those words, a piece of him collapses. He shrinks into himself, blaming the world, his childhood, his boss, his parents, his bad luck. It's the language of a man who doesn't want strength, he wants sympathy. But the harsh truth is this: the world doesn't owe him comfort. Life doesn't pause to soothe him. And the Stoics saw this clearly thousands of years ago, because each time you tell yourself, it's not my fault, you're building a prison cell made of excuses and locking the door from the inside. If it's never your fault, then it can never be your responsibility. And if it's never your responsibility, it will never become your victory. Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Those words weren't poetic. They were survival instructions. The man who takes responsibility becomes unbreakable because he stops waiting for fairness. He accepts reality. Some people will betray you. Life will be unfair. Storms will come. But your response, your discipline is your weapon. The fool blames the wind. The Stoic learns to sail. The fool curses the rain. The Stoic builds shelter. The fool waits for kindness. The Stoic trains for strength. Responsibility is the highest form of freedom. When you stop pointing fingers, both of your hands become free to build the life you want. Blame feels good for a moment. It's like scratching a wound. It relieves the itch, but never heals the injury. It's easier to say, my ex ruined me, than admit you ignored the red flags. Easier to say, my boss hates me, than admit you stopped giving your best. But that easy relief steals your power. The more you blame, the weaker you become. The Stoics didn't see responsibility as guilt. They saw it as ownership. Marcus Aurelius wrote nightly about his own failures, not to punish himself, but to train himself. Because the man who says, it's my fault, is also the man who can say, I can fix this. And that is the man the world respects. So next time you hear yourself whisper, it's not my fault, stop. Look at the situation honestly and ask, what part of this can I control? What lesson can I claim? What action can I take today? This is how Stoic warriors think. They don't waste breath on excuses. They build solutions in silence. Remember this. Every excuse you make today becomes the chain you wear tomorrow. And every moment you take full responsibility, even for what wasn't entirely your fault, you forge a new piece of armor around your soul. The world never respects the man who complains. It respects the man who owns his story, rewrites it, and moves forward without bitterness. So drop the phrase, it's not my fault. Replace it with 5 far stronger words. I take responsibility for everything. That isn't weakness, it's sovereignty. And once a man learns to take responsibility instead of blaming the world, something powerful happens. He finally begins to see which opinions truly matter and which ones he should release without a second thought. Because in the end, you choose which voices enter your mind. A fool believes freedom means rebelling against everything. But a Stoic knows real freedom is found in self-control, not in noise, not in defiance, but in mastery over his own reactions. The moment you feel the need to prove you don't care, you've already surrendered power to the very opinions you're running from. The wise man doesn't argue about his indifference. He simply lives with virtue and lets his actions speak in silence. Think about it. If someone's judgment can shatter your peace, is it truly their opinion that's powerful, or is it your attachment to it? A Stoic draws that line with quiet clarity. He asks himself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, he lets it go fully, deliberately, without drama, because real strength is silent. It doesn't need slogans. It doesn't need to broadcast toughness online. It just keeps moving toward purpose. The fool reacts. The Stoic responds. The fool speaks loudly to be noticed. The Stoic acts with intention to be remembered. And this is where most men fall. They don't understand the difference between caring and craving approval. Caring builds connection. Craving destroys self-respect. The goal isn't to stop caring about people altogether. It's to care selectively, to care about your integrity, your word, your actions, your principles, and to care about becoming the kind of man you yourself would admire, even if no one else ever praises you. Because the man who tries to please everyone eventually loses himself. But the man who lives by virtue earns respect without ever asking for it. That's the paradox. When you stop chasing validation, people finally begin to trust you. When you stop shouting, "I don't care what anyone thinks," your silence becomes your proof, and it speaks far louder than the words ever could. The phrase, "I don't care," isn't power. Most of the time, it's a confession of exhaustion. True power is when you could care, but you choose not to let it rule you. It's when you stand tall in who you are, guided not by praise or popularity, but by what is right. That's what the Stoics called tranquility or calm, unshaken by applause or criticism. Live this way, and you'll never need to say the words at all. The world will see it in your posture, your choices, your presence. And that brings us to the next destructive phrase. That's just how I am. It sounds harmless, but inside those 5 words lies the death of all growth. It's the quiet anthem of the man who has stopped evolving, the man who chooses comfort over character. Every time he repeats it, he builds himself a tiny prison called identity, decorating it with excuses and calling it authenticity. But that isn't authenticity, it's surrender, because no man is born fixed. We are fluid. We are shaped either by discipline or by decay. To say, "That's just how I am," is to admit, "I refuse to change." And nothing corrodes the soul faster than the pride of staying the same while pretending it is strength. The Stoics recognized this weakness long before modern psychology gave it a name. And once you understand that, "That's just how I am" is nothing but a self-made prison, the next truth becomes impossible to ignore. You have far more power over your mind than you've ever admitted. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you unlock real strength, because that power over your mind means something extraordinary. You are not bound to who you were yesterday. You can rewrite your temperament. You can reshape your habits. You can retrain your reactions. The Stoics never excused themselves with, "That's just how I am." They trained themselves out of it. Epictetus was born a slave, beaten, crippled, humiliated. Yet he rose to become one of the greatest teachers in human history. Seneca was exiled, accused, isolated, and he used that solitude to sharpen his mind and steel his soul. They didn't cling to labels. They shattered them. The foolish man says, "I'm just impatient." The wise man says, "Then I must learn patience." The fool cries, "I'm too emotional." The wise answers, "Then I'll master my emotions." Stoicism isn't about denying who you are. It's about proving who you can become. In today's world, people worship personality tests and zodiac signs more than actual effort. They say, "I'm a Leo, I'm impulsive," or "I'm introverted, I can't speak up," as if the stars or a few letters could dictate their destiny. But you are not your type, you are your training. And every time you act differently than your old pattern, you weaken its grip. You rewrite the script, you evolve. A Stoic warrior never says, "That's just how I am." He says instead, "That's who I used to be," because he knows change is not betrayal, it's refinement. The oak tree never apologizes for outgrowing its seed. The caterpillar never apologizes for becoming the butterfly. Growth isn't arrogance, growth is a duty. So the next time your mind whispers, "That's just how I am," pause. Ask yourself, is this who I want to be? Or just who I've been too lazy to outgrow? The Stoics taught that your habits shape your fate, and every moment is another chance to reforge your character. Maybe you're impatient, so you practice stillness. Maybe you're reactive, so you breathe before speaking. Maybe you're selfish, so you give when it's inconvenient. That's how warriors are built. one small act of rebellion against your weaker nature, day after day. Stop using your personality as a cage. Use it as a forge. Burn away the parts that keep you fragile. Stop hiding behind, "That's just how I am." Replace it with, "I'm becoming better than I was." Because the Stoic truth is this: who you are is not a fixed sentence. It's a decision rewritten every single day by the choices you make. And nothing exposes that truth more brutally than the next phrase, "I'll do it later." And once you understand the danger of telling yourself, "That's just how I am," the next mistake becomes even clearer, because nothing destroys a man's potential faster than postponing the action he already knows he needs to take. The Stoic man knows one timeless truth: action is always the cure. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do what nature demands. Get up now. Stop letting your mind play with you." He didn't say, "Wait until you feel ready." He didn't say, "Prepare the perfect plan." He said, "Get up now." Because a Stoic doesn't wait for readiness. He acts to become ready. He understands something most men never learn. Momentum, not motivation, is what builds real power. Think about how many men spend their lives talking about their goals. They dream out loud. They make vision boards. They talk about discipline at dinner. They buy books, join gyms, take notes, yet never take the first small, unglamorous step. Talking gives them a tiny hit of pride, a fake sense of progress. But talking isn't doing. Planning isn't changing. And so, every day they repeat the same promise: "I'll do it later." And with every repetition, the distance grows between the man they are and the man they could have been. The Stoics saw this as a deep form of self-betrayal, knowing what's right but refusing to do it. To them, the enemy was never failure, it was hesitation. Here's the hard truth: the man who waits for the perfect moment will die waiting. There is no perfect time, only this time. The Stoic warrior knows every second is a battlefield. So when the mind whispers later, he answers now, because now is where strength is built. Now is the weapon that kills procrastination. Every rep in the gym, every difficult conversation you stop running from, every small action taken immediately. That is how a man rebuilds his will. Seneca called it voluntary hardship, doing what's difficult on purpose, not as punishment, but as training. So here is your challenge. Think of one thing, just one, that you've been postponing, and do it today. Not tomorrow, not this weekend. Today, send that message, start that project, clean that room, take that first rep. Not because it's easy, but because your future self deserves action, not excuses. The Stoics never believed in later. They lived as if every day were their last, because one day it will be. The fool says, "I'll do it later." The wise man whispers, "If not now, when?" Remember, hesitation kills more dreams than failure ever could. The world doesn't wait. Life doesn't pause. Every moment you delay is another moment you surrender to weakness. So stop saying, "I'll do it later." Say instead, "I'll do it now, before later buries me." And that brings us to the next destructive phrase: "Nobody respects me." It sounds like pain, but beneath it hides a deeper confession: I haven't been respecting myself. And once a man finally admits that later is nothing but a trap, he begins to see another truth just as clearly. The respect he's been searching for doesn't disappear overnight. He's been giving it away in small pieces. No one takes him seriously anymore, but the Stoics would tell him something most men never hear. Respect isn't something you beg for, it's something you radiate. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. be one. That's the real key. You don't demand respect. You embody it. You don't chase it. You earn it through consistency, through integrity, through the way you carry yourself when no one else is watching. The fool, meanwhile, wonders why people don't take him seriously while he lives in ways that invite disrespect. He lies, he cuts corners, he gossips, he loses his temper, he breaks his word, and somehow still expects others to see strength in him. But the Stoic man understands something deeper. The world mirrors your inner discipline. If you speak truth, act with clarity, and control your emotions, people can feel it. They may not say it, but they sense it. Respect works like gravity. It pulls people toward those who live with order, principle, and calm. The modern world pushes men to chase attention instead of respect. They post louder, brag harder, fake confidence to impress strangers who don't care. But attention is cheap. Respect is sacred. You can buy attention. You must become respected. The Stoic path begins quietly, with silence and restraint. You master yourself before you ever try to influence others, because the man who controls his emotions controls the entire interaction. Think about it. When you lose your temper, you hand someone else the steering wheel of your mind. When you complain, you shrink. When you react impulsively, you expose exactly where you can be controlled. The Stoic doesn't react. He responds. And that's why people listen when he finally speaks. His words are earned, not spilled. Here's the truth most men never realize. Respect doesn't begin the moment others recognize you. It begins the moment you stop betraying yourself. When you wake up and do exactly what you said you'd do. When you speak less and deliver more. When you stop lowering your standards to win approval. Self-respect is the foundation. External respect is just the echo, and the echo always comes later. Seneca said, "He who despises himself is despised by others." So if nobody respects you right now, it's not a curse, it's feedback. Life is reflecting what you've allowed, what you've tolerated, what you've avoided. Start with one small act of dignity today. Keep your word even when no one is watching. End the toxic conversation instead of explaining yourself. Walk away from gossip. Speak the truth quietly. Finish what you start. These small, invisible moments build an invisible reputation. Over time, that reputation becomes a presence, quiet but undeniable. A presence that commands respect without noise, without effort. So never say, "Nobody respects me." Say instead, "I'm rebuilding my respect one choice at a time." Because the Stoic truth is simple. Respect isn't given or taken. It's reflected. When you respect yourself deeply enough, the world has no choice but to follow your lead. And this brings us to the next phrase every weak man repeats. Life is unfair. And now, continuing from the truth that respect begins within, we reach one of the most painful illusions a man clings to, the belief that life should be fair. The Stoics never saw it that way, and neither did Marcus Aurelius. This was a man who lost his wife, lost his children, faced betrayal, plague, and relentless war, yet still ruled with calm, steadiness, and mercy. Why? Because he understood something most people never learn. Fairness is not about what happens to you. It's about how you choose to respond. The fool believes the world owes him comfort, that life should make things easy simply because he wishes it so. But the Stoic, he knows life owes him nothing, and that very realization is what makes him free. When you stop expecting fairness, every difficulty becomes a gym for your spirit. Every setback becomes a new weight to lift. Every insult becomes a test of your composure. You either grow bitter or you grow better, but you cannot be both. Think about it. If everything were fair, how would you ever grow? How would you ever be tested? How would you ever learn what you're truly made of? It's the very unfairness of life that sharpens you, the missed opportunities that force you to build your own path, the rejection that teaches you self-respect, the heartbreak that shows you what real love requires. Fairness leads to comfort, and comfort leads to mediocrity. Unfairness is where strength is born. That's why the Stoics didn't pray for easy days. They prayed for the strength to face the hard ones. The fool curses the storm. The Stoic learns to dance with it, because every storm reveals your discipline, your patience, your courage. And if you fail, good. Life just showed you your weak spot. Now you know exactly what to train. Modern society teaches people to confuse suffering with injustice. We post, we vent, we blame, as if naming the unfairness will somehow erase it. But pain doesn't disappear because you complain. It disappears because you outgrow it. The Stoic doesn't seek revenge or pity. He seeks mastery. He asks, what is this moment trying to teach me? And in that question, he takes back control. No one can make life fair, but you can make yourself formidable. You can become the kind of man who turns every disadvantage into discipline, the kind who stops wasting energy on what's not fair and directs all his strength toward what's within reach. So when life hits you, and it will, don't whine, don't explain, don't look for sympathy, look for the lesson. Every betrayal is training for detachment. Every setback is training for endurance. Every unfair moment is a mirror revealing the strength you still lack. Instead of saying, life is unfair, say, life is testing me, and I'm ready, because here's the Stoic truth. The world doesn't need to be fair for you to become great. You just need to stay disciplined, calm, and unbreakable. No matter what cards you're dealt, remember, fairness isn't the path to peace. Acceptance is. Stop fighting for a perfect world. Start building a perfect response. That's how a man becomes untouchable. That's how a warrior is born. A foolish man speaks only to defend his ego. A wise man speaks to develop his mind. In the end, your words reveal who you truly are. Your fears, your pride, your discipline, or your lack of it. The fool says, I already know. The Stoic says, teach me. The fool blames the world. The Stoic owns his choices. The fool speaks to impress. The Stoic speaks to express truth, respect, power, and peace. These things don't come from noise. They come from alignment. When your words match your actions and your actions match your principles, you become untouchable. So from this day forward, guard your tongue like a warrior guards his sword. Speak less, mean more, and let your silence carry the weight of 1,000 wise men. Comment below, I speak with wisdom. And remember, your tongue always reveals your mind.